Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I have a couple more players to discuss, or two more players to discuss. But before we get into that, I just want to let everybody know that a few guys went back to school. Patrick Gongba, the center out of Duke, decided to return to school. Braylon Mullins out of UConn, I believe he went to UConn. I think so. He also is headed back to school. And How is his name? What's his first name? One of my favorite players in this entire draft. I think it's Thomas Howell. I'm not sure, but his last name is definitely Howell. Energetic guy. He went back to school, Florida. Guy, yeah, Thomas Howell. He's returning to Florida for another year. So those guys are, pulling their names out of the NBA draft for this season and going to try again next year, where they hope to have higher draft stocks and more refined basketball game. I think all three of those guys would have been great. I was a fan of all three of them. Howe and Mullins are two of my favorite players in this draft, so that really kind of threw a monkey wrench in my hopes for my own team with a 25th pick, although most of those guys I expected to be long gone. But just in general, it makes the draft a bit more shallow, and it changes the calculus on what you think you have available to you in it. So that's the thing. Now you see some names getting shaken around, and there could be some more guys who may be exiting this draft as well ahead, as there is still roughly 2 months before the NBA draft right now. So yeah, some guys are moving up, some guys are moving down based on needs of teams as it pertains to their projection. So it's changed the calculus a lot. But that's what's up. I felt that information could be helpful since we've already covered all three of those guys, and I was a fan of all three of those guys, especially Howe and Mullins. I'm a big fan of both of them. I think they would have been great in this draft. But I think going back to school could potentially be a positive thing for him. So we'll see what happens there. So the two players that I want to discuss today are Joshua Jefferson, power forward, small forward out of Iowa State, 6'9", 240. And what's his name? Isaiah Evans, 6'6", 180, a small forward. I think he can actually probably play some two as well, out of Duke, shooter. So I'll start with Evans since I did homework on Evans yesterday. There was not a great deal of commentary on Evans. I guess that's coming down the pipeline since he is expected to be somewhere in the first round. But what I took from Isaiah Evans is he is a hyper confident sniper rifle. Basically, he is a shooter, a super shooter from behind the arc. And that's what you're getting out of him. Reminds me of a couple people. Tim Hardaway Jr. came to mind. Swaggy P kind of came to mind as well. Although Swaggy, I don't think was as much of a sniper as this guy. Kind of the same type of stuff going on. Shooters like that, man. Who else comes to mind? Can't think of too many. One of the things that Isaiah Evans is really good at is taking the ball off the dribble and being explosive in the paint. So if you try to close out on him, he's blowing past you, and he's going to do some highlight. So that's what makes him extremely special. He averaged 15 points this past season, but the rest of the stats is pretty much null and void. 1.1 turnover, 0.7 steals, so almost a steal a game, almost a block a game, 0.7 there as well. 1.3 assists and 3 boards. So this is a shooter. You're not going to have him on your fantasy team. He's just going to shoot. But the thing about it is he's such a gifted off-ball mover and such a gifted player in finding himself open around the perimeter to where he's going to be a specialist of the highest order coming into the NBA. He is an extreme specialist. So long as you have guys who can find him, he is going to create uber space. We're talking about a maximum floor spacer and somebody who knows how to get open as well as anybody in this draft. In fact, he might be one of the one of the best off-ball players, period, in this draft. His catch-and-shoot stuff is phenomenal. Now, his shot selection can be a bit rough at times when you ask him to do things off the dribble, although he's a fantastic 1-2 dribble pull-up guy from behind the arc. He's not going to dribble the ball too much, but off the dribble, if he has the ball in his hands, he can very easily get his shot off, and it's going to go down. He shot 86% from the free throw line, so the shooting is excellent at the free throw line. 36% from three on high volume, so that's really good. 43% from the field, which is not great, but again, most of his stuff is behind the arc. You got him moving around, coming off of screens, curling, turn around, fire. Relocate. Stuff is going on outside of his situation. He catches the ball, fire, and you want the space that he creates. You don't care that he's not helping you in other areas, because at the end of the day, he is such a phenomenal shooter and such an explosive shooter. And what I mean by that is, he hits a shot, he's throwing up his whatever it is, put his three over his head. They call him Slim. He is a charismatic, energetic dog of a shooter who's gonna bring a lot of life to the floor and a lot of life to the locker room. This is a supremely talented shooter with supreme confidence, man. Talking about a personality that's gonna pop off the screen. He gonna pop off the screen for sure. Per 36 minutes, he averaged about 19 points and 4 boards, 1 assist. He's not a playmaker, so the question is, what else can he develop into his game? His dribble penetration stuff has improved from last year to this year, so you've seen he had that. And his defense is actually pretty solid. He's a from what has been described as a pretty average defender, but he has really nice length. He's pretty fast, and so he's good at certain things that can develop to be a very, very solid, if not good, defender. Getting out in the fast breaks and stuff like that. He has several sequences where he's able to jump in front of passing lane to take it the other way, and his speed really carries him. His explosiveness actually is a strength of his. Even though he's not uber explosive, he's more explosive than your average player like this. This is why I compare him to like Swaggy P, because Swaggy can get off the ground. I think of a guy like Tim Hardaway as well, get off the ground, do some explosive dunks. This guy is one of those. I think the best comparison probably has been Tim Hardaway, because they're of similar height and length. This guy is 6'6", 180, and 180 is being generous. They call him slim for a reason, but I think he could put on some muscle if necessary. You probably won't need him to. If anything, you want him to stay lean, and you want him to run all over the place like Reggie Miller used to do, like Rip Hamilton used to do, off-ball extraordinaires. Guys like that, you want to stay slim and you want them moving fast. So that's what I like about Isaiah Evans. He's just an uber talented, confident space creator. The gravity's going to be ridiculous with him if he gets his shot selection up and takes the shots that he can make. That's really what it's about. The more he punishes defenses, the more he'll create that space for the stars on the floor. If he takes poor shots and bricks a lot of shots, as he has done here and there, it'll take away from the mystique, and it'll take away from what else he brings to the table, because at the end of the day, he's really only doing one thing, but he does that one thing extremely well. Off the catch, off the dribble, in movement, all different types of shooting sequences. His shot is fantastic. His footwork shooting the ball is fantastic. This is a guy who was born to snipe on a basketball floor. So that's really what it is, man. He's not much of a rebounder, though. You want him to grow in that regard, but he's going to have to put on more size. But even then, he's just not. He's not rebounding as well as you'd like him to. You would hope that he would be able to get a little better at that with his frame. And that's where his weaknesses are. Assist usage, of course, he's not assisting much, but you want him to finish plays. You don't want him to start him. Where he's really projected to do well is shooting the ball, percentage and rate, high volume, good percentage, free throw shooting. That's what you're getting out of him. So this is a guy who, if your team needs a movement shooter, you have spacing issues, or your team has superstars that don't stretch the floor very well, you can always use an Isaiah Evans. A team like Detroit, with multiple non-shooters in their rotation as their most important pieces, can always use more shooting like this. They did great with Malik Beasley they would do great with Isaiah Evans. And I think any team like that, another guy that comes to mind in that mold is Isaiah Joe of the OKC Thunder. He reminds me a lot of Isaiah Joe. Probably more explosiveness than Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe is probably more efficient than he is, but he can develop into that type of player, or maybe a little better with his defensive prowess and stuff like that. He reminds me of Joe. Reminds me of Tim Hardaway. Those are the two I think that are most easy to kind of envision, or what you expect from Isaiah Evans. So he's projected to go in the back of the first round, somewhere in this range that the Lakers are in. I want to see him develop a bit more defensive prowess. I want to see him develop into being a more acceptable playmaker. That will make his overall value better in the league. There are going to be games where he probably doesn't play if for some reason the team he's on has shooters that do more than what he does. But at the end of the day, if you need shooting, you're not going to find too many more better than him in this draft. In fact, now that Braylon Mullins is out of this draft, I think Isaiah Evans might be your most talented shooter. Him and Anderson are in that mix. I think Bennett Sturts is considered an elite shooter as well, if I'm not mistaken. So there are a couple shooters, but this one is the only one that I've seen of this mold in this draft. Pure shooter. And this brother is like I said, he's electric, man. He's electric. And once he gets him going, he gonna get your crowd involved. You run out on the screen on him, he gonna put you on a poster. So this is a fun shooter. A one-trick pony, which tends to not really work in the NBA anymore, but he's so gifted at creating opportunities to be open and so deadly that I think he's going to be providing more value on the court than he probably does in the stats. And he's just good enough of a defender to where you probably feel really good having him out there, even as a starter, depending on the situation. So I'm a fan. I think the Lakers could do great with Isaiah Evans. I don't love that he doesn't contribute to more stats, because players like that in the past, I just have a vision of them just not being overall valuable. But when you consider what a shooting specialist is for a bunch of playmakers like Luka, Austin, and LeBron, and you think about the type of dog this player has in him and how the Laker organization needs confident basketball players, how well we're doing with shooters right now when you consider what Luke Kennard is doing, although Luke is not, Evans is not Luke Kennard. You don't expect for him to have as many elements in his game or be as careful with the basketball, shooting better shots as Luke Kennard. But then again, I don't think too many have. But when you talk about how well we've done with shooting and how we've neglected shooting in the past and how we found shooters like Beasley who didn't necessarily work out for us, you feel great that Isaiah Evans is going to be confident that he can shoot the ball no matter where he's at in this world. And, the slim frame is going to make him extremely elusive, and he's going to be excellent off of pick and rolls, and he's going to be a hell of a target and a space creator for a guy like LeBron and Austin and Luka. The spacing is just going to be phenomenal no matter what rotation you have on the floor. So I think any team that gets Isaiah Evans is likely going to love having him. I don't know if you're going to feel great about leaving certain players on the floor to do other things. There are going to be players in this draft that they do so many different things that you look at a guy like Isaiah Evans and you don't see him really doing much of nothing but shooting. But when you consider just the intangibles of what a great movement shooter, a great catching shooter can be, electrifying a crowd as well, bringing a lot of heart and energy to your team, Isaiah Evans is going to bring a lot to the floor that doesn't show up in the stat sheet, in my opinion, and is going to be a winning player in this league. Buzzer shots and stuff like that, I can see already. He's going to hit some huge shots, momentum shots, the shots that make the crowd go absolutely wild in the playoffs. He going to hit them shots, man. So I'm very confident in Isaiah Evans, so long as I keep in mind that he's really not able to do much else other than shoot. One-trick ponies. But if that one trick that they have is elite, and there's such a need for it, like shooting, you should probably have a good balance in mind to say this is somebody that you probably do want to take in the first round. So that's really what it is, man. 6'6", 180. Isaiah Slim Evans is definitely somebody on the map in this draft, and there is a shortage of shooting in this draft. So I don't doubt that there are certain teams who need him, and so I think he's got the right idea coming out this year. And so that's really what it is, man. He has his performances though. The 1 of 8 from the field performance, 0 of 5. He can have them type of games, but he's gonna shoot a lot of threes. He's gonna hit a lot of them too. 4 of 8, 5 of 9, 5 of 6. You got the 4 of 10 type thing. He's gonna shoot a lot. His percentage could be better if he chooses better shots. That's the thing. He had the big game in the conference tournament where he had 7 of 16 from behind the arc and walked away with 32 points. But you're not gonna get more than probably about 19 points out of him most nights. And the low nights are really low. And because they're really low, he's not doing a whole lot else. But he did have a 5 block game against Thomas Howell and those guys on the 2nd of December. So that's pretty impressive. He had another 3 block game against Cal. So his length can help him defensively. He had back-to-back games where he had 2 blocks early on in November. So he can help you defensively. That's the thing. The stock numbers are going to go up. He had 5 stocks against who is this? This Louisville. 5 stocks, 4 steals, 1 block, and 23 points, 4 of 10 shooting, 7 of 17. So this was a big game for him there. In 36 minutes, he really contributed. So that's what you can expect from him, man. He's gonna help you in the stocks area as he develops. His defense is pretty good, and like I said, he's electric driving at the rim. I think if he's gonna really develop the next level of his game, he's gonna continue to work on the dribble drive stuff, work on finishing, in the paint, because that's where he really shined in high school. He definitely did that. So in the big league, I think he can help with that as well as he continues to work on his handle and stuff like that. So, yeah, man, I love this player for teams with high-level playmakers. Brooklyn, all the point guards they picked up last year, they got nothing but passers on that roster. Obviously, anytime you're talking about the Denver Nuggets and Jokic, the Lakers definitely. Anywhere where there's playmakers, man. Anywhere where there's playmakers. The Chicago Bulls with Giddey. Yeah. Anywhere that you can think of where the passers are on the floor, but the spacing may not necessarily be at a premium. This is a great spot for Isaiah Evans, and there are plenty of those in this league. I think he's going to fit on pretty much all teams, pretty much all of them. And so that's what I got to say about Isaiah Evans. Definitely a fan of what he does. I would love for him to incorporate more into his game so he can have a bit more well-roundedness to him. But he's a two-way guy that's going to snipe and basically stocks. Snipes and stocks. That's what you're going to get out of him. All right, so next up is Joshua Jefferson, power forward, small forward out of Iowa State. Now, Joshua Jefferson is a passer first, but he has a really well-rounded game, also a two-way guy, and of course, 240 pounds, 6'9". Now, the thing about him, he's a little like Allen Graves in the sense that he's not very athletic. He can get off the ground, he's going to dunk a lot, but there's no explosiveness underneath the rim. He's going to get packed a lot, too. So this is a less than athletic power forward, but he's probably the smartest player in the draft as it pertains to processing and feel. That's his strength. You watch the highlights and you're looking at a guy who is picking teams apart with excellent passes all over the damn floor. This is a big guy. He's people are comparing him to guys like Slow-Mo, Kyle Anderson, because you don't expect for him to be more than a role player, but you do expect for him to help you out in a lot of areas. I've heard him compared to, I think it was Boris Diaw, although I didn't really see Boris Diaw like that. Who else? I heard him compared to, there's a couple guys that he was compared to. Colin Murray Boyles in a way. I think Colin may be a bit more athletic than him, but they both can play make at that 4 spot with big bodies, and they both have defensive skills. But this guy, Joshua Jefferson, is going to win. His Iowa State team was a very good team throughout the course of the year. He's a senior at 22 years of age, so he's a bit older which you kind of pull back on. But you look at what he brings to the table, and you realize he immediately is going to fit on a lot of basketball teams as a playmaking power forward that looks to score the ball. He can also stretch the floor a little bit as well, if not a lot. He's averaging 16 points, 2 turnovers. The turnovers are a bit much. When he has bad games, he turns the ball over a lot. But he's a passer, so that's going to be a thing. Kind of out of the Derek Queen mold in a way, although Derek Queen is bigger than him. I look at those two guys and I say, yeah, under-athletic, hyper-pass efficient, driving at the rim. He's a bit more athletic than Derek Queen, though, but that's kind of the mold, I guess. And I haven't heard anybody say that. That's just my own thing telling you that. But 1 steal a game, good defense, 0.8 blocks a game, so almost a block a game, so he can help you on defense. 4 assists, which I think goes up depending on the type of talent he plays with. 7 rebounds, which is good for a power forward at 6'9". You'd like to see that number go up. 70% from the free throw line could be better. He's hovering just above average. I'd like to see that improve. 34% from the 3, which is pretty solid. Could be better, but he stretches the floor enough in the highlights to make you feel good about him. 47% from the field. You wish it would be higher with as big as he is, but there's just no explosiveness there. Under the rim, he can dunk when there's nobody down there. With people down there, he can finish through contract. But like I said, you go up against Wemby and shot blockers like that, they're going to swat him. It's going to be ugly because there's just no lift. 30 minutes a game, per 36 minutes, he averages 1.9 steals, one block a game, 3 turnovers a game, but 5 assists a game and 8 boards and 19 points. So this is a very well-rounded basketball player. Can help you on both sides of the floor, just about every area of the game. Like I said, he reminds me a great deal of Allen Graves. Him and Allen Graves are in that same mold, big guys. He's a little heavier than Allen, but they both can play similar basketball games. I think Allen's not as talented as Joshua Jefferson passing the rock, but they're both extremely talented in that regard, in my opinion. Just very, very helpful pieces. Now, when I think of Joshua Jefferson, I actually think he's going to be a bit of a tier higher than the guys that we talked about, the Boris Diaws or the slow-mos. I think he's going to be a bit better than that, to be honest with you. And watching the highlights, I know there's some concerns about how he's going to find a way to score in the lane with all these lengthy athletes and super athletic forwards that are coming in. Most of the guys who are his size are significantly more athletic than him. So there are going to be some times where he's just not going to match up very well with people you want him to match up with. But he's so intelligent and he's such a connective piece that he's immediately making everybody better. When you look at a team like the Houston Rockets right now, how they're struggling, if you put that kid on that floor right now, it's a different series because he's going to make everybody better, man. Everybody better. He's a connective piece. So if you have continuity issues, offensive flow issues, basketball IQ issues, you need to value Joshua Jefferson. If you have what people would consider a low IQ basketball team, you need to draft Joshua Jefferson. He's going to change that immediately. You suddenly go from a stupid team to a smart team if you put the ball in his hands and let him go. I'm telling you right now, he's, without me having the most understanding of some of the top guys as it pertains to their IQ, I think this is probably the smartest player in the draft. Just being honest. And like I said, DeBonsta, Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, Caleb Wilson, they're in their own category, especially those top 3. Cameron Boozer is a genius, so we know, obviously you need to consider those guys in a different tier. But after that, for me, when you talk about basketball IQ and feel, he's the most intelligent of everybody in this entire first round that I've done homework on. Joshua Jefferson, far and away, the player that I would choose if I need to improve my basketball IQ, if I need to improve my offensive continuity, if I need to improve my overall size, since he is 6'9", 240. Again, the athleticism, not really there. But he does have a powerful back-to-the-basket type of game that against smaller players he can leverage against them and draw fouls and score through them. But against bigger guys or guys his size with more athleticism, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. You think about guys, even in this draft, like Jaden Quintance, he's going to, Lindeborg, you would expect him to struggle against those people. Morris Johnson, he's probably going to struggle against those guys, even though they're his size or a little heavier than him. He's nowhere near as athletic as them, so that becomes a bit of a thing. But where he's going to have the edge on them is he's going to be picking their team apart with passes left and right. Just boom, he's going to find everybody, corner, interior, boom, boom, boom. And then when you don't, have him passing, if you leave him open, he's knocking down triples. Knocking down triples, knocking down triples, knocking down triples. Otherwise, pass, 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 pass. It's just a very, very special build. And I grew up on, watching the Sacramento Kings going up against my Lakers so much. I value these type of pieces. Your Chris Webber and Vlade Divac. I value these guys that are at that position who can pass. I think about guys like Scotty Barnes and Colin Murray-Boyles over there in Toronto. Think about Draymond Green. That build has been very successful in this league, and I just think that Joshua Jefferson is not the dumbest of those players I mentioned. Put it like that. Those are intelligent basketball players. He's as smart as some of them. And so I think his ceiling could potentially be very special. I think that most people are expecting him to hit his floor because of the concerns about athleticism. But what I see is a guy that's going to outthink you on the basketball floor. When you think about Jokic, not very athletic, massive. He's playing pool out there as it pertains to him passing the ball around. I think Joshua Jefferson is somewhat like that. Obviously, Jokic is the best level of that. But when you talk about the type of players that you expect Joshua Jefferson to be, a heavy player that's essentially your connective playmaker, your point forward at the 4 spot. Draymond comes to mind. Although he's not as gifted defensively as Draymond, he's going to be a better shooter than Draymond. He could probably make some of the same passes. Draymond's probably a little more intelligent than him as it pertains to just Draymond's IQ is off the charts, but where he's going to make up for that is just being a severely efficient 3-point shooter in comparison. So it's like, that's who I think he can actually become, especially if he gets in the right situation. Joshua Jefferson's a guy that's probably going to get on your team, and you're probably going to keep around. I don't think he moves around like Kyle Anderson. I don't think he fades away like Boris Diaw. I don't see that. I see something a bit better. In fact, maybe a lot better, to be honest with you. Because I just value intellect on a basketball floor. I understand the importance of having ball movement and feel out there. I think of guys like Lonzo Ball, guys who have tremendous feel. I think of people like Chris Paul, although they're Chris Paul's at a different level, but just the idea that a player can be not just a player on the floor, but a part of overall ball movement and rhythm. The ball moving from side to side, catch it immediately going somewhere else. LeBron James, Magic Johnson, those type of players they're not just players, they're effectively part of the game itself as it pertains to ball movement. They are a part of the ball itself. Like as soon as the ball comes their way, it's going the right place at the right time. That type of thing. And so Joshua Jefferson should probably, if you value those type of things, and you believe that players like that, Luka Doncic, not so athletic players can be superstars because of their overall athleticism and ability to stretch the floor when necessary, then you probably think Joshua Jefferson could potentially be one of the best players in this entire draft. That's the truth. When you get past the idea that he's not going to score like a lot of these explosive guys, he don't need to, because he's going to make up for it in areas that they couldn't even possibly come up with. He's going to make passes they don't even see. That's the type of player Joshua Jefferson is. And you understand that the turnovers come with the passing. So it's like you may get a little frustrated with the turnovers, but he's a passer. So turnovers come with those guys. Luka turned the ball over a lot. Bron turned the ball over a lot. You know what I mean? This is what comes with that. And if you understand that, you aren't overly concerned about him having 5 turnovers or 6 turnovers. He's going to have to get better, but that's kind of comes with making the passes. He's really good at passing in tight windows, bounce passes. He makes the right pass, the timely pass. It's just a connective piece, and he wins doing it. So for me, he's projected on Tankathon as of right now to go to the Lakers. I think he would be a very sound choice for the Lakers. Our basketball IQ would be sky high if this guy becomes part of our rotation. He is a rookie that is 22 years of age, played for all 4 years of college. I don't think I would have Dalton Connect fatigue when considering whether or not to draft Josh Jefferson. That would not be difficult for me. I would definitely take Josh Jefferson under the right circumstances for my Los Angeles Lakers at 25. I think he shouldn't fall past 25, if I'm being honest with you. He really shouldn't. He should probably go sooner. There are players in this draft that they have the weakness of field. They have all this different talent. They can jump, just run, this, that, but they're not the greatest basketball minds. They're not overly smart when it comes to the sport of basketball. I think that smarts should come before athleticism in some cases. It's case by case. I'm not saying it's a perfect science, but having done as much homework as I've done on this entire draft, there are certain players that I think have more tools than Joshua Jefferson that definitely should be left on the board past Joshua Jefferson, just because of how much better he's going to make the overall unit when he's on the floor, so long as he's, taking care of the basketball and making good decisions as he's prone to do. Now, he does have some issues. He's not a perfect player. That's why he's down here. There are some things with the turnovers, again, that we've talked about, the athleticism and thing that we talked about. Defensively, he can kind of be a little slow because of the lack of athleticism. So, he's going to get taken off the dribble by guys like Giannis. They're going to run right past him. It's not going to be, it's not going to be that great. So he's got some deficiencies that need to be worked around. You want athletic players on the floor with him. But as far as just like, you got all these catch and shoot, you got all these Isaiah Evans and guys that need the ball in the paint, stuff like that. He's going to find them. He's going to find them. He's going to activate players on your team that have been long dormant. When I think about what my Lakers have been able to find with Luka and Jackson Hayes. Jackson Hayes was pretty much a player that we couldn't get much out of until we acquired Luka Doncic. All of a sudden, we saw what Jackson Hayes ultimately is activated by, and that's lob passes and players that know how to find him. This guy is going to activate players that have long been dormant on your basketball team. That's what Joshua Jefferson could potentially be in my eyes. He's a guy that's going to turn some guys' lights on. Guys that ain't been able to get nothing out of him, suddenly you're going to have him on the floor with Joshua Jefferson, and Jefferson going to be looking for them, and he's going to be finding them. And so he's going to be an extension of his coach on the floor. I don't think he needs the basketball in his hands all the time to play make. He could be an excellent third, passer. As I say, a pool player. They know how to get the ball in different places in order, connect a lot of different things that are coming together. He sees plays before they happen. He has that gift. You know what I mean? The guys that can take a snapshot of the floor and know where everybody's standing. Yeah, he's a point guard, man. He's a point guard at that power forward position, and he can dribble the ball well enough and drive the ball well enough to take care of some of those duties as well. You don't like a Derek Queen. You don't want to make a habit out of it. You put too much pressure on him, it could potentially be a little bit of a problem. But if for some reason he's getting his shot going from behind the arc and you decide you want to double this guy, then you activate what his gift really is. So I'm a believer. I'm a super believer, actually. I just think that players like this who are this intelligent, you need not overthink what their deficiencies are, because they're going to make up for it in areas that the players that you focus on who don't have his deficiencies will never be able to do. And so it makes up for it. It falls in place on the back end. So that's really what it is, man. As somebody who's been watching basketball his whole life, Joshua Jefferson makes really any team better. Any team. Any team, no matter if you have what he is or not, you put him on the floor and immediately your offensive continuity is just activated. You're scoring more and you're getting stops because he's good enough defensively to help you with that. This is a valuable basketball mind that should not be underutilized for his deficiencies. Do that with somebody else who ain't half as intelligent as him. That's what I would tell you. Don't do it with him. Get him off the board. If you trust BDF 44, get Joshua Jefferson off the board. Don't have him on there too long. It's the same thing I said about Morris Johnson. Jefferson and Johnson are players that should not be falling as far as they are. Some of these guys that they're taking in front of them, they're being valued because of the school that they go to. And I'm telling you this because I'm doing extensive homework on these people. Some of these guys, they're only at the top because of the school they go to, man. Nobody even thinks they're better than these people. They just say, well, it's because they went to this school. They likely went up against better talent from night to night. So we want to weigh that against that. And we're going to have good relationships with these schools and stuff like that. And then the sponsors that sponsor these schools and all this, a lot of that crap going on. And these teams are going to walk away with players that are not as good as some of these guys in the back of the first round. I'm telling you, when it comes to Morris Johnson and Joshua Jefferson specifically, they should not last past... Honestly, they shouldn't last past the lottery. Either one of them. Morez more so because of just how well he translates, but Joshua because of how intelligent he is. And people who are saying he's going to be a role player, I think he's going to be a starter. I think he's going to be a starter. You know, I really do. I think Joshua Jefferson is going to be a starter. And the more talent he plays with, the better he is activated, just like every playmaker. He was on the floor with Iowa State team. I'm not sure if the talent was great, but if you put him on an OKC, oh my God. You put him on a Boston Celtics, oh my God. You put him on a Los Angeles Lakers, oh my God. That's who Joshua Jefferson is. So that's what I want to say to people, man. Don't buy into some of this stuff that people are doing, because a lot of these players at the top of this draft, not the top, but like the middle of this draft, 12, 13, 14, 15, some of them dudes, they are not that great to me, if I'm being honest. They're not overly special. They don't have great feel. Some of them have to really develop, and that's cool. You look at a Joshua Jefferson who's a bit older, who's already developed. He's going to help your winning situation a bit quicker. And for your organization that needs to develop culture, he's going to make your young players better if he's down there. Brooklyn, Joshua Jefferson will make all your young players better, although you don't really need all of that passing. You have a little more passing than needed. But just for example, a team like Washington, he's going to activate some of them young guys. Man, they're going to be better because Joshua's on the floor. You know, if 76er team that wants to win, some of them guys are going to be better because Joshua's on the floor. So it's just like Detroit. He fits well in that situation so long as the three balls fall in. San Antonio, God, the IQ continues to go through the roof. Yeah. I don't think there are too many teams that should not want Joshua Jefferson. And I would take him above some of these guys that are kind of ahead of him, I guess you could say. I would definitely feel comfortable taking him in front of a lot of guys ahead of him. You know? And maybe it's just because, like I said, I'm in an era of my life where I'm watching Luka just dominate, basically, for my Los Angeles Lakers. And he doesn't have a lot of athleticism. You know what I mean? He ain't getting off the floor. But he's doing it with his mind. He's doing it with his skills. And to a much lesser degree, I think that's exactly what Joshua Jefferson's going to do. A different position in a different way. But it's the same thing. Your team is better with him on the floor. Your offense is activated with him on the floor. Your defense is strong with him on the floor because he's a good enough defender to make that the case. So, yeah, I would take him 14, 15. I would feel very confident that taking a smart player is especially important, even if he's a little older, especially since some of these teams are not rebuilding teams. So if you're a team that especially does not need to be taking on a project and you want to win right now, I think Joshua Jefferson immediately comes in and is one of your most important role players immediately. I really believe that. So that's what I got to say, man. I'm higher on Joshua Jefferson than a majority of the people I've heard talking about him. I just am not as worried about what he can't do and more so enamored with the idea of what he will do for everybody on my basketball team. So that's pretty much what I got to say. I like both of these guys. Isaiah Evans is going to be an awesome shooter. Joshua Jefferson is going to be an awesome basketball brain machine on the floor that makes plays for others in a role-playing role. And I think there's a great deal of room for more when you got that type of guy on your team, especially if he's needed in his situation. So, yeah, man. That's what I have to say. I like both those prospects. I hope you guys enjoy what I'm doing here. I'm going to continue to do homework on these players. I wish there was more tape and more commentary on these two guys. It just wasn't a whole lot out there. Yeah, man, do not underestimate either one of these two prospects. They both should be in the league for certain. BDL 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.